Hi, I'm Jenn Drummond. Welcome to Seek Your Summit. As a mom, a business owner, and the first female to climb the 7-second summits, I realize that the mountains we climb are a part of our success. And it is up to us to go beyond that success into a life of significance. Listen in as I share personal stories and interview others who have led a life of both success and significance, and now they are paying it forward. Friends, today I have my friend Valen Lindner on the podcast. I've gotten to know Valen really well over the last year, but I've known her in town since I pretty much moved here and kind of had a girl crush on her. She is a fantastic realtor. Her and her partner have sold 2 of the 3 highest priced homes in Park City. And if you've been to Park City, you know that we are saturated with realtors. And her and her partner's company is ranked in the top 1.5% nationwide. So if you're looking for an amazing human that can get the deal done, listen in because she's magic. Valen, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is a perfect day to do this in July in Park City. It could not be more beautiful.
I know. We asked for it and it delivered. So thank you, universe.
After our many months of frozen mix and trying to figure out when summer would come, here it is. So
here it is. And we get to have a conversation. Yay. So I love to bring people back to like younger Valen so they understand who you are and how that's kind of come full force till today.
I have one sibling. My older sister, Vanessa, is 2 years and 9 days older. We have been super close for a very long time. She lives in San Diego, where I moved from. She lives in Del Mar. I actually just got to spend a bunch of time with her over the 4th, so that was awesome.
Now, were you both into sports growing up, or were you primarily?
No, so it was the 2 of us. So me and my sister both went into competitive figure skating. We grew up outside of LA in Palos Verdes. We spent all this beautiful California weather in a freezing cold ice rink. We started kind of just playing around at the rink when she was 6 and I was around 4. There was one right in Palos Verdes. It was just kind of a hobby thing to do, keeping busy. And then it kind of progressed into competitive figure skating. We started homeschooling. We were at the rink. We got up at 4. We were at the rink by like 5:30, and we were training 365 days. No, we took like Christmas and holidays off.
Got real serious fast. Like homeschooling, scheduling around it type of thing.
Scheduling around it. We had multiple coaches. So you would go to the ice rink in the morning and then you would do dance and gymnastics after, like weight conditioning and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we were kind of bouncing around coaches all around LA and the LA basin. And then we ended up at the end of our career going up to Lake Arrowhead to the Olympic Training Center up there. It was so fun and so difficult all at the same time. It's not a team sport. So it's confusing for a little girl because you're trying to figure out, okay, well, this is my friend that I'm playing with on the weekend, but I'm also going to compete against her for a medal in 2 months, and we're training rigorously. So there's this kind of strange line between friend and foe, right? You're just navigating that when you're that age, and also having to answer to these very specific demands of skating your best, hair, makeup, costumes, making sure always to get the gold. It was a very interesting way to be brought up in that arena.
I mean, I can only imagine, especially when somebody takes it that far, and it's one of those things that you're performing. Yes. Right? How do you stay authentic to yourself when you're in this performance environment all the time?
Yes. You put on that turquoise eyeshadow, you put on your best smile and your beads. Once you skate onto that rink, you have to drop everything else that's bugging you, right? In your adult life, we see that a lot. You get to a client appointment, anything that's, kind of bugging you, that it's got to go out the window because they are the priority at that point in time. It's not a performance. It's kind of a performance, but it goes into that same thing where you've trained, you've practiced, you're presenting properties to very affluent people. And I think there is a performance aspect in that.
I talk a lot about developing an avatar and then stepping into that avatar. When you put on the turquoise liner, the avatar of this performer on the ice is ready to go.
Yes.
When I zip up my down suit, I'm on the mountain ready to do the mountain. Everything else is not important because this is the role I'm playing. For me, I can get lost in my work and forget that I'm a mom sometimes. I actually had to put an alarm on my phone. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it would beep and it'd go, magnificent mom. I'm like, okay, like this is the avatar that I need to play from here to here. And it's not bad. It brings us into the role that we want to perform as best as we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's been many a time where I'm pulling into my garage on the phone, and then I just kind of sit in there just to give myself 5 and take all those layers away of the stress of the day. When I walk through the door, I want to give my kids a truly present hug. I'm not always successful at this, but to give myself the best chance to give them a present mom. In the last few years, I've been really trying to get back to the balance because competitive sports teaches you to just go, 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 go. And that's the only thing that matters. That's tunnel vision. And so when you're an adult, now you're like, well, I have these beautiful children. I was listening to this incredible podcast the other day, and it was, saying that we spend 75% of the time we're ever going to spend with our children before the age of 12. Having a 4 and an 11-year-old hit me like a ton of, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And I was like, okay, this is the right thing to balance that. Not that I have to take away from either side, but to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and making sure to have that right balance in your daily life. It's really hard to do that when you're just getting up, going out the door.
I've read that quote too. And I think this is my season to lock into motherhood because it's going to change and we don't get to have them at our houses forever. As crazy as it feels at some moments, how do we embrace and make the most of it?
When it was put into that timeline, I was like, oh my goodness, I really need to start prioritizing that. And of course, it's always that struggle. Since they were born, you're trying to figure out how to juggle that. I think I've gotten a lot of perspective in this last couple of years as to how to hold both things sacred, and also your relationship with my husband, who's so amazing and supportive. It's adulting. It's all these things we're just trying to work on all the time to make sure that we're giving space to ourselves and to all the people that matter most, and also doing the best that we can for our clients.
So how was the exit from performing and being a figure skater? How did that end, and what was the next rendition of you?
It was sudden.
Okay.
It was very sudden. My sister broke her foot when we were at the training center in Arrowhead. We had gone through a lot of hardships. There was a lot of financial struggle for a very expensive sport. It was fun, but it was getting less fun. I remember being like spit out into 8th grade, and I was like, hey, I'm back. Back into like regular public school. It was 8th grade. I was kind of at like peak awkwardness.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Big caterpillar eyebrows and funky teeth. And people were like, oh, this is like the ice skating tutu girl. This is like around that Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding days.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a time when I felt like I had to become a complete chameleon because I just didn't know really what was next. I certainly didn't know how to fit in. I definitely did not walk in there with like a bunch of friends like, hey, you're back. And so it was like, okay, all I wanted for such a long time was to go to a public school and lead a normal life, and I got it. It was a little traumatic. I was like, whoa, okay.
Right. I can only imagine.
All the medals were gone, all the bells and the whistles and everything. And I think also one of the things that was pretty impactful, all the coaches were gone. Okay. Nobody was giving me that, like, this is how to live your life to be successful. When you've had that for so long and it's all stripped away, you're kind of feeling a little bit like, what am I supposed to do with myself now? Like, I didn't really know what to do. And of course you have teachers and stuff.
Yeah, but it's different.
But they're not like a mentor, not like a coach saying, okay, this is the life's work that we're going to do to get you this medal, to get you to this next, phase in your life. And we weren't cut out to be Olympians. It was pre that, but it was still kind of staggering enough where we were just back at school trying to figure out how to be kids again.
Right, because you lost that.
It was interesting.
Where did you end up going to college and what did you study?
My sister is super smart. She ended up going to UCLA,
Okay.
and I studied real hard and I got into Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara. I remember driving up to that school and I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. Like, this is definitely
Oh,
where I want to be. Like, on the beach, beach mountains, like hiking and surfing and all that kind of good stuff. Not that I ever mastered surfing, I wasn't that great at it. But just amazing. So yes, went there, started, it was like the first year they did global studies, which is kind of like a spin on poli-sci, and then ended up doing a study abroad at the Sorbonne in Paris, which was so amazing. And then once I came home from there, I decided I didn't want to move back to LA. My friends were all going there, and I was like, I think that is just too much for me right now. So I ended up in a resort town, much like Park City, but a lot smaller, called Mammoth Lakes in California.
mm-hmm.
And there, I actually got my first job in digital marketing for a property management site, very much like the early iterations of Airbnb. We had a website. We used to cold call property owners and see if they wanted to advertise on our site to book the second home vacation experience. At that point in time, I was like, oh, I have no idea, like this, like digital marketing and so it was funny because I ended up in a resort town doing digital marketing for real estate.
It comes back.
I
Yes.
hadn't even really put the dots together until a few days ago. I was like, wow, that's really kind of strange. The just path that you go on, not even really realizing what it's going to end up at. So that was the next step, moving to Mammoth. Then I went down to San Diego. I had spent 4 years there. Incredible, insane snow, like beautiful. But I kind of wanted to get back to a bigger city, figure out exactly what I wanted to do, and just continue it on in digital sales.
Okay.
Worked for the San Diego Union Tribune. They had the first online sales team, and people were like, "What is this? This is like way before like YouTube and like Friendster or MySpace. Like none of that stuff existed. We were selling big boxes, leaderboard ads, and advertorials." Everybody was like, oh, that'll never last.
We are.
Newspaper.
Here we are.
That was a kind of more like life experience there.
Did you have a vision of where you wanted to go, or were you just going from one, like you said, okay, I'm in this area because it's snowing. I'm done with the snow. I want to get into bigger communities. So I'm going to transfer back to San Diego where I had family and stuff. Was it ever career driven or was it more lifestyle driven?
It was more lifestyle driven,
Yeah.
but once I had gotten into sort of the digital arena, I was really into it. It was fun and it was new and it was exciting and it was like way before it was really popular. And it was just kind of like, I think there's something to this. Like there was something to this and I kind of knew that. Then I went to a company called Just Luxe, which was a website that pretty much curated everything luxury, from hospitality to the hottest new cars to travel experiences and high fashion. That's what we were selling advertising to.
Oh, that's perfect for you.
Like
Perfect alignment.
right? Ritz-Carlton and the Four Seasons. That's actually how we got our honeymoon paid for. We traded some advertorials and big box advertising through my site to get one of those bungalows on the beach at the Four Seasons in Bora Bora. I was kind of an imposter syndrome. There's no way they're going to give me a free place. That actually happened. And I was
Back before influencers were a thing, you were an influencer and a content creator.
I was writing an advertorial. I'm like, this doesn't really equate financial, but whatever. Like, it was just really cool. And I loved that job and it was super fun. And so it kept snowballing, all this digital media sales that I was doing, and I was getting promoted, and it was just fun. I just loved it.
How did you meet Mark in the middle of this?
We met when I was at the San Diego Union Tribune at a boys and girls fundraiser, and we were in San Diego. It was like at the W Hotel, like at the rooftop. Okay. And I remember he and I met, and it was kind of like Fast and Furious. 6 months later, we had a puppy, and yeah, we kind of were on the fast track and got married a few years later, and yeah, it was really special.
Your relationship with him is really special. It's fun to watch.
He has been my total absolute rock. We've gone through so many amazing and hard things together, and like true relationship, you know.
It's not surfacey. It's like,
Yeah.
here's who I am, here's who
Yeah.
you are, and you've worked through so much. It's just beautiful to see.
Yeah. We both met at a time when we were both a little bit lost. He had just had a big tragedy, and I was trying to figure out my way. When we met, we leaned on each other for support and found a beautiful love in the hardship of that time,
Yeah,
which
and
I
have
think was,
created and maintained a beautiful love
yes.
continue to flourish.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when it's created out of a hardship that becomes beautiful and special and unique. Not easy, of course, but yeah.
Then you're at like Just Lux. You have like, what gets you the move from San Diego to Park City, and when does that happen?
So we had gotten married. It'd been a year and a half. I was actually at another company at this point in
Okay.
time doing digital media sales for entertainment companies. One of my best friends and I got pregnant like a month apart. We were the first out of our big group of friends to start having kids. And we were in this beautiful but tiny Victorian house in Kensington, which is in San Diego. And we were just like, you know, we've been in San Diego for a long time. This is a sign to a bad school system, which now looking back, like he was, you know, 2 months old, didn't matter.
Yeah, right.
But
You know, whatever.
exactly. But his parents had joined the promontory in 2007. We had gone up and visited a bunch, and they were like, why don't we just try it? It's so close. We can move to Utah. We'll figure out if we like it. We stayed at his parents' house for a little bit just so we could figure out the neighborhoods. This is way pre-real estate for me, so I didn't know anything about it. Quickly, I was like, oh, now I'm in winter. I've got a 6-month-old baby. I don't know anybody. I don't have a job anymore. I loved it, but I was starting to panic.
Yeah.
I was starting to feel like, okay, this is a little isolating, and I'm not really sure what to do. And I was trying to like, I remember looking at like backcountry.com, like, well, where's my digital space? There's got to be a website up here that I can work for. And quickly realized that that was not really what Park City had to offer. So my mother-in-law was like, hey, I think you're going to be really good if you got into real estate. Like I used to do it back in Connecticut, and I think you have a great personality for it. Or she just thought my skill sets would align. And I remember it was in a snowstorm. I was in the promontory,
Yeah.
and I had no friends. I had a complete meltdown when Caden was like 1.5, 2. And I was sitting, I think my husband was on a trip because he was traveling. And I remember just sitting there hysterically bawling. And I'm like, honey, I'm not happy. I need something. I need some friends, or I need a job. And he's like, well, why don't we get the real estate license? Why don't you just go get your license and we can figure it out if you like it. We just need to supplement for your happiness, to give you some space, a little extra income would be great. And I remember getting my license in like a really fast amount of time. And I was like, okay, tunnel vision, tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And got my real estate license and took the test, passed, and then joined KW right away because Keller Williams had the best training program for new real estate agents. And yeah, I just went in full-fledged, like
I get it.
100 miles an hour, shocker.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just remember me personally, I had a career and then I stepped out of it to have children. I was grateful for that time, but then there was a time where I was like, this isn't going to work as my only. Like my
Yes.
personality needs something more just to interact with adults. It's fun that you picked real estate because it does give you some flexibility and it still gives you an identity and something to focus and do.
So I was like, oh, perfect. It'll be a great part-time gig. I can kind of do it on my time. In the beginning, it was a little bit less intense. But again, like the tunnel vision, I was like, oh, I love it so much. And so it was funny because you always intend to go into a profession thinking it's going to be part-time. And the funny joke in real estate is like, oh yeah, part-time becomes 24/7.
Yeah.
Weekends, holidays, all that kind of stuff. But yes, it was so good for me. It wasn't an easy realization either, because I think that being a stay-at-home mom, and I don't even love that phrase.
Term, right.
It seems like
Like demoralizing, really. That's a challenging job.
it's a job on the planet because there's nobody giving you a paycheck or patting you on the back or
Or saying it's
promoting you.
working.
You never know if it really works. And so, but I knew, I was like, I need to blend this or I'm just gonna kind of lose myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I felt very appreciative. And it's funny though, because I do remember walking into Keller Williams and I love that brokerage, nothing against it, but I was not well received there. I was kind of like this young city girl, all dressed up, hair and makeup. They were kind of just like, who is this?
This
Like,
isn't the mountain vibe that we're used to in Utah. What's
exactly.
happening
How
here?
does she think she is? From my training, I kept my head down. I was kind to everybody and knew what I had to do to get to the next step.
Did you know, like, hey, I want to be one of the top realtors in Utah and I want to be one of the top realtors in Park City? Or that was just the end result because you loved the process?
I think that was just the end result. I really had no intent to go in and be the luxury realtor. So I think just because I was working really hard and I was super motivated to prove that I was giving up staying at home for a good reason.
That's so critical, that point.
Yes.
Why was I willing to set a world record? Because it was significant enough in my mind that it justified the pursuit.
Yes. And I wanted to make sure that is the pearl worth the dive, right? The whole acceleration actually kind of came out of nowhere because I met this wonderful client and we met through a home renovation type of thing. And she's like, hey, would you come, look at one of my houses? I'm like a year and a half through real estate, like total imposter syndrome. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still just kind of faking it to make it. I still feel like that most of the time. I remember going through and I gave my name at the gate to the colony. And then I remember driving up in a snowstorm. I'm like, where am I going? I didn't even really know Park City that well at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember pulling up to this house and I was like,
Ooh.
this is next level. And from that day on, it's truly my favorite neighborhood. I love it up there so much. And I've been so privileged to sell up there. But that was a year and a half through. I got the job and, that was a real catalyst.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was targeting that. It was
Organic.
Yeah. And I think the combination of really wanting to make sure I was going to get a foothold in this and that I wasn't just wasting time trying to justify not being in the house with Caden.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just all snowballed perfectly into where we are now.
I think it's interesting to say at the beginning you had imposter syndrome, but you also had an amazing real estate team that could help fill in the knowledge that you didn't quite have, right?
I think the training at KW was great. And then at that year and a half mark when I got the colony listing, I was able to meet Jameson, my business partner, because we had two of the same priced houses. There was a great mentorship. Because real estate's a very lonely business, sort of like ice skating was a very lonely sport. It's hard sometimes to figure out where your mentor is because everybody's in their own silo working, to get to their goals and their achievements, and there's not a ton of things unless you hire a coach. And so for me to be able to meet my mentor on on that mountain, and I was like, oh, that is another really kind of lucky thing that just happened. And then that accelerated because we joined forces, went over to Sotheby's, and have now been working in a team ever since. And that's been great because the team effort is huge. And when you're managing client expectations, it's much nicer to have somebody to pass the ball over to, and skill sets that are different, where I'm great at marketing, somebody else is great at negotiating or contracts. As you well know, it takes a village to get these things successfully across the finish line. So
you said the word luck, right? But I think you create your own luck because who you are and the actions that you take vibe your tribe, and the tribe finds you, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is going to work and this is going to work, and you make it work because you signed up for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all those little incremental moments from the past definitely lead you to that. I much more believe that now because when I look back, I'm like, wow, it wasn't just a coincidence. It was your journey, right? These things present themselves at certain times in your life, and it is your responsibility to go and seize on that. And it's, it's hard and wonderful and challenging and scary. And I remember listening to, gosh, I can't remember what show it was, but the person was like, this is such a competitive business. How do you feel about that? And she said, pressure is a privilege. And we should all feel so lucky that we have the opportunity to be put in this push, like these situations, to push ourselves to grow. Because what is the human experience if we're not constantly pushing against those boundaries? So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Looking at where you are now and who you were, what is something that you wish younger Valen knew?
It's funny because just in this last year, I wish that I would have given myself a little bit more grace. Because I think, especially women in professional sports or in professional business, we're so critical of ourselves all the time. Every meeting you come out and you're like, could I say the right thing? Not to mention dye my hair right. And it's like, I wish, and I still am working on it today, just giving yourself a little bit more grace and saying like, hey, accepting compliments, like all those kind of things, just not always coming out and instantly getting on the critique train.
Yes.
I wish that I knew that then. I wish that I still practice that now. If I have a huge presentation or something, I'll go in my car, take a breath, and just appreciate that I did an A for effort, right? Maybe not everything went completely smoothly, but it's okay to not pick out that 1% or 5% of things and then just focus on that, focusing on the positivity of the experience and not being so critical of everything.
I can definitely see that
Like
even
it's
in my
huge.
own journey of looking back and being like, I was doing good. I don't know why I didn't feel like I was doing awesome at the moment, or why if 97% of the thing was great, the 3% is what consumed my entire being.
100%.
But I look back at it, I'm like, girl, it's not that bad. Enjoy the like, I don't know if I allowed myself to enjoy it. Learning how to just appreciate and enjoy where I am, even if it's not perfect, has been a big part of my journey.
Yes. And it's funny because I find myself saying perfect throughout this chat with you. And I'm like, no, it's not perfection. It's like just appreciating the amount of care and effort that you put into things without it having to be this perfect outcome.
Yeah.
I've been also listening to a lot of podcasts, and they're really focusing on the positive parts of the day. He's like, when I go to sleep at night, I go through a little treasure hunt of the positive things that happened in my day. And I've been starting to do that. And wow, it is so powerful because it shuts out the negativity. What you shine the spotlight on enhances. I was like, okay, I'm going to really take this seriously. So I've been going to sleep at night, thinking about the positive things. That inner critic starts to get pushed out. Things just like I had a meaningful hug with my 4-year-old daughter, who's a little force of nature, but I got her to just calm down the other day, and she's like, Mama, you make my feelings feel so good.
Oh,
And I was like, that's
that's
it. That was the moment. That meant to me more than any deal that I've ever done, right? Just those little tiny moments. So yeah, it's kind of just shifting that perspective to make sure you're not so consumed by the inner critic, which I think we're surrounded by a lot. Because anytime you go on social media and do a post, there's an outer critic right there for you.
How are you building gratitude and these little moments of joy into your life intentionally?
So it's much easier when Mark's not traveling, but in the morning, he always peeks in. I do intensive breath work and morning meditations.
Yep.
My sleep pattern, just I wake up no matter what with tons of anxiety, just like massive anxiety. And so I have been trying to be really thoughtful over the last 4 or 5 years of doing like morning meditations and like deep, deep breath work. Meditations have been really helpful because I feel like it helps me flush that out. If I get up and I start checking emails like right out the gate, I'm like, oh, it's just like,
It closes that space so fast,
it
right? That
does.
space is going to happen. You almost have to be like, no, I want to prevent that from happening. I know it will, but it doesn't need to happen before 8 or whatever you need to set your boundary for.
Totally. And also just that kind of sets the tone and the intention of like, okay, you're breathing and you're meditating and it just calms my body vibrations down a little bit. And then I can walk out the door and have a little bit more space for my kids or my clients or my husband or myself. Exactly. I think that has been tremendously helpful for sure. But if you can give yourself a 5-minute or a 10-minute little space at any time of day that you are feeling overwhelmed, even if it's just like, hey, I'm pulling up to my client's house or I'm going to drop off my kids and I just need 5. Take 5, pull into, a parking lot and just, put on some calming music, take a few breaths. And I think that's been really helpful for me.
I've turned red lights into my gratitude light. Every single time I hit a red light, that's my cue to shut off everything and start looking around. Can I be grateful for something I see or thoughts that I have, or just different things going on at that point in the day? Because I drive around a lot with kids, it gives me a lot of check-ins throughout the day and makes me become more present.
I love that. I know. Because I think when you start to just pop in a few gratitudes, you're trying to steer this huge cruise ship to be happier. And it's not like we're going to be on a speedboat, like, oh, this is going to be fine. It takes these little things to slowly anchor the ship to be on a more grateful and positive
path.
Path. Yeah, exactly.
What do you see the future looking like for you?
Now that we had the discussion about the kids getting older and wanting to spend time, I feel this need for a little bit of a balance. There is a tendency for me to tunnel vision. And so I want to kind of create getting a little more balance, maybe bringing on some more operations or getting it really nailed down because we are coming into a changing market right now. The reoccurring clients we have are great, but we want to make sure to have systems in place to continue in any market as it shifts. So that I'm trying to nail down, and also just really like spending time with my kids and really enjoying friendships and relationships, amazing people that I've gotten to surround myself with has really been something that I would like to reprioritize. So yeah, trying to shift from the tunnel vision, which doesn't mean I'm not going to be focusing on that, but I think when you're more well balanced, it shows in all aspects of life.
Oh, definitely. When you have it in this space, then it allows you to have it in another space. You have such a strong reputation that you've spent so much time building.
Yes.
And it's a different energy to maintain than it is to build.
Right.
So acknowledging that, okay, we've built this. This is amazing. Let's provide the best service and maintain it as best as we can. But we don't need to put as much hustle in because we have the reputation. You have these amazing skills that you do this market different than anybody else. And that's what's allowed you to stay at the game level that you're at.
And have fun with it.
100%.
Yeah. So it's been really exciting. We've gotten some really cool and cutting edge opportunities. And I mean, it's been super exciting. And so, yeah, just continuing that and making sure that well taken care of along with personal life and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing. Okay, for our listeners that are looking to buy or sell in Park City, how do they find you and get to utilize you?
So we are at parkcity360.com, our main website. That is also our handle on social. So at parkcity360 on Instagram is where you can see some cool, beautiful visuals of homes. We've got a YouTube channel, LinkedIn, pretty much all social media platforms. And that's the easiest way to find us is just either DM me on Instagram or shoot me a text. An old school call is always fun. We're always available on our phones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.